If you're a senior and you've experienced pain with squatting or avoided squats entirely because you're worried about injuring your knees or your back, you're not alone. Yet squats are still one of the most important exercises for seniors looking to have strength, independence, and mobility. Here's the thing, squats don't hurt people, bad squats do. And what makes a bad squat? Bad form, improper progression, or poor coaching, or a combination of all three. So to find out if you're doing bad squats, we've partnered up with Dr. Jonathan Sullivan, a medical doctor and the author of Barbell Prescription. This is literally the definitive work on strength training over the age of 50. And he's gonna go over the most common errors that seniors make with squats. Here's a quick preview of the video right here.
Thanks, Matt. You're absolutely spot on. Now, like you guys over at Village Fitness, we get a first-hand look every day at how form errors can contribute to discomfort. And this goes for all forms of exercise, from Tai Chi to Thai boxing, not just strength training. It just helps to do things right. So listen, guys, Matt's going to tell you about other sorts of issues that can increase pain, and he's going to take a regional approach to discomfort arising from the squat. But we are going to tell you about 6 of the most common errors that contribute to pain in the squat. Holding the bar up with your arms, improper gaze direction, standing up out of the hole, bending forward, late knees, and failure to stop the bar. All of these very common errors contribute to discomfort while squatting, and they're all super easy to fix. So first, watch this incredibly important video from Matt, subscribe to the Village Fitness channel, and then come on over to the Gray Steel channel for some quick review of common squat form errors. Back to you, Matt.
All right, thanks, Sully. That was awesome. You can check out the full video right here, and it's also linked in the description. Now, if you're still having pain with squats, even after you've dialed in your form, it's time to take evasive action.
Take evasive action. Green group, it's a trap.
The common dogma of no pain, no gain is quite foolish. And pain is really our body's way of getting our attention and letting us know that there's a perceived threat in our environment somewhere. It's something that we should certainly be listening to and paying attention to. And chronic pain isn't just a physical sensation, it literally leads to changes within our brain. fMRI studies have shown long-term changes to 6 different areas of the brain in folks with chronic pain. These different areas of the brain make up what's called the pain neuromatrix, the different components that create the experience of pain within our bodies. But when pain becomes chronic, the brain's response changes. Researchers call this phenomena cortical smudging. If you look at an fMRI study of somebody in chronic pain compared to someone without chronic pain, you'll see actual smudges on the fMRI within those brain regions. This leads to a blurring of our sensory and motor signals, making it hard to determine which stimuli are painful and which are not. For example, someone who has damaged tissue in their knee that's causing pain with squatting, if they have pain for long enough, they may still have pain even after the damaged tissue has been repaired because their brain has connected the squat motor pattern to the pain neuromatrix. Imagine your brain like a detailed roadmap of your body. Every single body part, muscle, joint, and action is like a different point on the map. When everything's working properly, you can get from one point to another smoothly on a well-defined road. But when you push through pain over and over again, it's like repeatedly drawing a line between unrelated points on the map. Over time, that line becomes thicker and thicker, and the connection becomes stronger and stronger. Eventually, your GPS or your brain is going to think that that's the correct route to get from point A to point B, and it's going to direct you there. Just like if you're squatting and you have knee pain consistently, eventually your brain's just going to think that the squat pattern is the thing that's causing the pain as opposed to the actual tissue that's damaged. As the saying goes, neurons that fire together wire together. And we certainly don't want the pain response connecting itself with the squat motor pattern or any other. So the good news about our brains is that they are very plastic, which means they're constantly changing. So even if you feel like your cortex is smudged and you've connected the squat movement pattern with pain over and over again, you can still change that. And the best way to go about it is to make sure your squats are pain-free. Research shows over time you can unsmudge your cortex and return it back to a normal, healthy, functioning brain if you're doing a movement and it's not painful. The good news is that having a simple understanding of how pain works within the body can actually help decrease your experience of pain. And pain while squatting is often treated by a quite simple fix, which we're going to get into those right now. One of the most common reasons that people have pain with any exercise is improper progression. And if you have a brain that is fundamentally changed because you've been in pain for so long with a movement, thinking about progression is going to be crucial. So in the simplest terms, you need to start with a variation of the squat pattern that doesn't cause pain. For some people, this may be a completely unweighted squat where they're holding on to something, or a body weight squat, and that's where you need to stay until your brain feels that the movement is safe. Then from there, you can slowly and progressively build and add load and do it in a way that's not painful. Now, let's talk about progression, or maybe better said, the lack of smart progression. Now, here's the reality. Your body needs time to adapt to the stress of training. Now, let's imagine that it's the first day of summer. You have pale white skin, and you decide you're going to take your shirt off and go and sit out by the pool in the sun for 2 hours. What do you think is going to happen? Well, you're probably going to get a pretty nasty sunburn. Now, imagine this differently. Imagine if you'd gone out for 5 minutes in the sun with your skin exposed. My guess is you would have gotten just a little bit of a tan. The next day, you go out for 6 minutes. The next day, 7 minutes. The next day, 8 minutes, and you slowly and steadily build up. By the end of the summer, I'll bet you could go out there for 2 hours with your skin exposed to the sun and not burn, because you've built up tolerance to the stress of sunlight. It's the same exact thing with our training. We need to slowly and steadily build up the amount of load that we're putting on our tissues, and our body will go about preparing itself for the next stress by becoming just a little bit more durable and strong. Now, here's the trap that most seniors fall into. They think that they can start with the same weight that they used in high school for their squats, or they think that they can progress just as rapidly as they did when they were 18 or 25 years old and pretty quickly get back to whatever they were doing before. Now, here's the reality. As a senior, you can still be strong, lean, mobile, healthy, independent, active, etc., but you have to train differently when you're over 55 than you did when you were 15. Progression isn't complicated, but it's not optional. You need to start with a weight that you can handle with perfect form. My guess is it's probably a little lighter than you think it is. Then progress very slowly from there. Think 5, maybe 10-pound jumps in your early workouts on your working sets, and just do it consistently and repeatedly over time, and you'll be amazed at how much progress you can make. The key is to have small, planned jumps every single workout. Adding just 2 pounds every single week for a year will lead to over 100 additional pounds added onto the bar, which is incredible progress. Yet, most people don't think about it this way. They get so frustrated that they can't be back at what they were when they were in high school. Progression is a bridge that gets us from where we want to be to where we want to go safely and effectively. Now that we've talked about progression, it's time to dive into some specific joint regions within the body and to understand some of the pain and limitations that people have and how to fix them. Let's start from the top down with the shoulder. Now, shoulder pain with squatting is quite common, but I certainly wouldn't say that it's normal. It's often a sign that something isn't working. Now, the barbell doesn't care how your shoulders feel, but you do, and so do I, so let's fix it. The low bar back squat is a demanding position, and the demand is part of the benefit of the exercise. It requires a large amount of external rotation at the glenohumeral joint. It requires retraction of the scapulae. It requires extension of the thoracic spine, and those positions can be really tough for our text warriors or desk warriors who are slumped over their phones or their computers for large amounts of the day because it's the exact opposite position that most of us are in. Here's the deal. Discomfort in the shoulders with the low bar back squat doesn't mean you should avoid that exercise. It means you should fix the problem that's leading to the discomfort and get back to doing the exercise that's going to be most beneficial for you. Now, if you do have discomfort in the shoulders, here's 3 steps that I would take. Number 1, stick with it if it's bearable. Simply using the low bar squat position can lead to improvements in your mobility over time, and eventually your shoulders will just get used to it and adapt. Number 2, if you can't bear it, you can always use a high bar back squat position. Compared to the low bar back squat, the high bar back squat is the next best thing. And as you work on your shoulder mobility, you can use the high bar squat to continue to make progress in the squat pattern. Now, if getting your arms even into the high bar position is a no-go, you can try using a safety bar for your squats as you work on your shoulder mobility. And finally, you're gonna wanna target the underlying issue and fix it. If it's shoulder mobility or scapular mobility or thoracic spine mobility, you're gonna wanna fix it. And here's some movements that we use at Village with our clients to treat the shoulder and the spine. One of the best shoulder mobility exercises is a bar hang. You can do this with your feet supported on the ground. And when you're able, you can lift your feet up off the ground and just allow your spine to lengthen and your body to relax. Hold this for 30 seconds and repeat 5 times. Another great shoulder exercise is a dumbbell chest fly. You're gonna wanna use really light dumbbells for these. Start with them directly over the shoulders and then really slowly open the shoulders and the chest, holding for 5 seconds in the stretch position, and then bring it back up. This is not a strength exercise per se, but much more of a stretch. You can work up to holding this one for longer and longer amounts of time. If your limitation is more of your thoracic spine, you'll know this because you're rounded forward in your upper back. You can use a foam roller across the upper back, hands go behind the head, and you lean back. I like to work through different segments of the vertebrae, spending 2 to 5 minutes total on the spine. So now that we've talked a little bit about shoulder pain, it's time to move on to the hip. Now, we sit far too much as a society, and because of our obsession with sitting, our femurs are constantly getting pushed from underneath by chairs and couches and seats forward in the hip joint. So when we begin a squatting program and begin to ask a lot of our hips, it's not uncommon to feel a pinching sensation in the front part of the hips. This is often due to the femur migrating forward because it's so used to that from sitting. The good news about the squat is that it is very much a glute exercise, and the glutes actually have an effect on the femurs where they pull it posteriorly or backwards within the hip joint and help to counteract the effects of sitting. Now, if you're still experiencing pinching in the front of the hip, here's one of my favorite drills to open up the backside of the hip joint. You're gonna strap a band to something that's not gonna move, like a squat rack. You'll step in, you want the band way up in your hip crease, and then you're gonna step forward so you get a nice pull. As you can see, this is my femur. It's getting pulled posteriorly within my hip joint. And you can get down into a nice down dog position and then work your hip back into as much hip flexion, which is the hip going this way, as you're comfortable with. Now, if you don't have a band, you can do this with no equipment. I'm gonna show you this for the left hip. So I'm gonna start on all fours here. I'm gonna bring my right leg out straight, windshield wiper my left foot forward, and drop my right knee down behind my left ankle. And then I'm just gonna sit back into my hip. You'll know you're doing this right when you feel a pretty intense stretch on the back side of your hip that you're working. You can make this more intense by dropping down to the elbows and then do some nice deep breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And really sink into the stretch. Next, let's move on to the knees. Now, knee pain with squatting doesn't mean that you're broken or that you have bone-on-bone osteoarthritis by default, or that you need to throw out squatting altogether. It often just requires a few simple tweaks and you can continue to make progress. One of my first and favorite things to do for folks is to have them wear knee sleeves. I really like the Ray-Ban knee sleeves. They're quite thick. I personally have had 3 knee surgeries, all when I was very young from wrestling. I had 3 meniscus surgeries. And so even today, my knees are the most sensitive part of my body. And so I support them. I wear knee sleeves and it really reduces a lot of problems that I used to have with knee pain while I would squat. The second hack that I use with folks is to work on their tibial or their lower leg internal rotation. A 2012 study found that increasing tibial internal rotation decreases the strain on the knee and improves mechanics with many different movements. So to mobilize your own tibia internally at home, put your leg up on a box or a bench, something that's not going to move around. Take both your hands, wrap them around your lower leg. This is your tibia. And you're going to rotate it internally or in towards your center. Then you're going to go forward and back. If you're able to, you can work all the way to your full range of motion. We have an entire movement in our program that we call the Village Lunge that is this. It's a full range of motion lunging pattern. And sometimes we'll have people add this self-internal rotation to the exercise if they need it. All right, so we saved the best for last, low back pain. There's a couple common issues I see in folks with the low back. One is improper breathing, and 2 is weakness in the spinal erectors or the back extensors. So let's talk about breathing first. When it comes to breath, one of the most common mistakes I see people make is inhaling as they're lifting. Now, with a squat, especially a loaded squat where you've got a lot of weight on the bar relative to you, you need to be very stable in your trunk. One of the best and most efficient ways to do that is by taking control of your breath. The one option that you definitely don't want to do is to be inhaling as you're moving with a heavy load. I see this often in folks where they'll be going down in their squat and they'll be inhaling on the way down. Of the 3 different types of breath patterns, the inhale, the exhale, and the breath hold, the inhale is the worst for spinal stability because it literally is like opening up a soda can while you're squeezing it. The soda is going to be going everywhere. The exhale, the forceful exhale, is the next best thing. So with our clients, especially those with pelvic floor issues, we have them do a forceful exhale throughout their entire squat pattern. They breathe in at the top, and then as they're going down and up, they're forcefully exhaling. This brings into play the abdominal muscles and creates a good amount of stability in the trunk. Now, the best option for increasing stability maximally is a full breath hold or a Valsalva. So you're going to breathe in at the top, and then you're going to hold your breath throughout the whole movement, pushing out, squeezing, and tightening everything within the trunk as you go through the entire lift. The second thing we recommend that people do is to strengthen their back muscles. Here's a couple exercises to bolster your spinal erectors and make sure that they are not the problem leading to your back pain. So research shows that weakness in the back extensor muscles or the paraspinals is one of the leading causes of low back pain. People with weak backs tend to have back pain. People with strong backs tend to not have back pain. Here's a couple exercises to strengthen your lower back muscles or your paraspinals. Okay, so this first exercise is called a Superman. So you're gonna start on the ground. And to start, the easiest level is just to lift up with your hands by your sides. You can make this more intense by lifting the hands and even more intense by lifting the legs. You can also do back extensions on something like this. I would call this a Roman chair. Or many of the other devices that you may find in a commercial gym. Now, researchers did a really interesting study where they looked at a bunch of different exercises and they measured the effect on the lumbar paraspinal muscles. They looked at lunges and back extensions and planks and deadlifts. And they found that the deadlift produced the highest activation of the lumbar paraspinal muscles, meaning it's the best exercise for strengthening your low back. So if you want to avoid back pain with squatting, you're going to want to make sure that you have deadlifts in your routine so that you're building a strong back as your squat numbers are going up. So there you have it. These are some of the most effective fixes for pain in the shoulder, the hip, the knee, and the back that I've found in my clinical practice and working with thousands of clients at Village Fitness. And I want to thank Dr. Jonathan Sullivan and his team over at Graysteel for partnering with us in this video and for teaching us all of the most common form errors that they see in the gym. Thanks, and look out for more of this to come. Like and subscribe for videos just like this, and give Graysteel a like and subscribe as well.